Hello and welcome to Learning Music with Pat. I'm going to start off today by showing you a group of what we call penny whistles or British flutes, generation flutes, Irish flutes. They're called various things. I guess the most common term is to call them a penny whistle. I was introduced to the penny whistles when I was in an orchestra and I was playing flute, and I had a good friend of mine by my side who was also playing flute, and she brought in one of these penny whistles. And she says, "Pat, you ought to get one of these. They're so much fun to play." And she brought it in and she was playing it in the orchestra. So I went to a music store the very next day and I noticed that there was a lot of penny whistles, and they play in different keys and they're in different sizes, and they're all pretty much the same. They work the same way. They are a piece of metal. They're usually made of brass or metal, and they're coated with something. This is silver. I have them that are gold, and they have a plastic mouthpiece. The plastic mouthpiece is pretty much the same as a recorder mouthpiece. It has the labium in the front, and it has a little lip on it, and the little window, the same as recorders do. You don't see a block, but it's in the inside of the instrument. The back side of the instrument, you don't see any block. They're shaped a little differently than the recorder, but they play about the same. They have that little whistle sound in them, and they're straight. So I want to show you a group of them today. I have quite a few. I have them in different keys. When I realized how much fun they were to play, and they weren't that expensive, $6 or $7 can get you a penny whistle, or at least when I bought these. When I realized how much fun they were to play, I started buying them in different keys, and so I brought some of them in. I have 2 or 3 of the D. I will be playing them, and if you notice the front, I don't know if you can catch that or not, but it has a little insignia. Most of them are made by the same company. Has a little insignia, and on the top it says generation British made. So most of them are made in England, and yet sometimes they're called Irish flutes because they do a lot of Irish music. It's very easy to play them. They do get a little squealy and they get a little tinny sounding. What do you expect for $6 or $7? You can, if you want to spend the money, pay a lot more for them. And if you pay a lot more for them, they have a better tone. But nonetheless, they're fun to play. You can play a lot with them. They have a 2-octave range. They play all kinds of music. I've played all kinds of music. You can jump notes. You can squeal with them. You can have a lot of fun just going up and down the scale with them. And they play different kinds of, you can jump and play all kinds of complicated music because they're not that hard to play, but they've got a good range. So let me just play. It'll sound a little different than the recorder. And I want to make note here, they play 1 pitch below the recorder because there's no tone hole in the back. So you don't have anything to think about in terms of a thumb hole in the back. They're all in the front. The size of the holes are going to be a little bit different to accommodate the size of your fingers, but they don't vary as much as you get in the recorder. The recorder is a little more complicated. So I'm going to show them to you, different sizes, and I'm going to run up and down the scale with them. That's its lowest note. It's in the key of D, and that's its lowest note. They're really quite simple. So that's the one in D. I have another one also in D. It has a gold plating to it, and it has a green mouthpiece. But other than that, it's exactly the same, plays the same, and I'll run up and down the scale on this one. played lots of solos on these. So this is also in the key of D. Now I want to play. This is as they get larger, as they get bigger, they're a little bit harder to play because of the finger stretches. This is in the key of E flat. Also, this is, okay, I said in the key of E flat. I have another one here in the key of E flat, if I can find it. Here we go. This one has this gold plating to it, and it has the red top. It doesn't play, it's older than the others. For some reason, it doesn't play quite as well, but also in the key of E flat. Now I'm going to play one in the key of C, and you can see that it's larger. Silver with a blue top, no tone hole, the same kind of mouthpiece. The finger stretches get a little bit greater, and so therefore if you have trouble with your hands, if you're arthritic or something, you might have a problem. Now, something that the flute does, now, and I'm doing it on the penny whistles, the flute, when you play a D, a higher D, you lift up the first finger, the index finger. You don't go from a D to a high D. You can, but on the flute, you would lift that top finger, and I find that if I do the same thing with the penny whistles, the note comes in a lot easier. Now, I'm not having any trouble with the finger stretches, but if you're elderly and you have trouble with your hands with arthritis, it does get harder to play them when they get larger and larger because, of course, the tone holes have to be stretched out more. Now, I've got a couple here that are, one more that's larger, and this is the B flat. And you can see it's quite a bit larger. I've got a couple of small ones, too, I'm going to try out. All right, so this is in the key of B flat, and the finger stretches are noticeably bigger. This is about as much as I can stretch on my own hand. And I was playing an alto. I've been stretching my fingers because the alto is a little larger too. And as I was playing the alto, all of a sudden, I heard this huge crack and popping sound and this severe pain. And I had taken, this is just a story about finger stretching, I had taken and popped this finger right here, this fourth finger from its joint, pulled it right out of the joint because I was stretching my hands so much, and I'd been doing it on several instruments, but I'd done it too much, and I thought, it's a little sore, it'll be all right. Popped it right out, and it made a horrible cracking sound. You could have heard it down the street. It was so loud, and the pain was out of this world. So I grabbed my left hand and I held it. I knew what I'd done, and I just held it, and it eased back into position. But for about 2 or 3 months later, I was still having pain. I was wearing a compression glove on it, and I couldn't stretch it anymore. There were instruments I I couldn't play because I couldn't stretch. So you can get injured if you, from overuse, because I've been doing this for years. So you can get injured from overuse, and I still have some trouble with that today. Now, I've got two smaller ones. This one is going to be in the key of F. And it's no stretching on the fingers. The fingers are close by. It has a gold cast to it and the red mouthpiece. And you can see easily the labium, the window, the lip on it. You don't see a block in the back, but you don't. And there's no tone holes in the back. It's a generation flute made in England. Most of mine are. Plays real easy. It's a lot of fun to play. I warn you that the pitches get rather high. It's a very high-pitched instrument. Now, I have one even smaller than that. I have a G generation flute. This is the smallest one, actually, that I've got. It's really small. And I usually joke that I don't play it unless I wouldn't play it in an orchestra unless I was sitting beside a person I didn't like, because it's piercing. But really, very, very nice instrument. It's just it does pierce it a little. Now, those are all cylindrical because they're the same size all the way down to the bottom. But I do have a couple here. They're called sweet tones, and they're also British made, and they come to a point. So they're conical. They come to a point. This one is green with a black mouthpiece on it. It's just like a penny whistle, except it's called, the company that makes it, I guess, a sweet tone. It's in the key of D, plays well, and but it is, I think, a little softer because of the fact that it comes to a point and it's not straight all the way down. And there it is, a softer pitch, but very nice, plays very well. And this one is the red one with a black top. Same thing, it's a sweet tone, it's a conical, it comes kind of to a point. I don't know where to hold this, okay, right there. And it doesn't have a tone hole in the back, it's also in the key of D. You see how easy these are? I used to tell a friend of mine who was pastor, there's nothing to playing a woodwind. You put it in your mouth and it plays. He says, yeah, for you it does. Now, I have another penny whistle. I probably should close with this because I don't have time to do anything else. Believe it or not, this is a penny whistle. The biggest one I have, the biggest one they make. And I'm going to hold it. I want to hold it so you can really see it. It's large. It's got a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful tone. It's all black. You don't pull it apart. There's no real way to clean these instruments, by the way, if you have a penny whistle, because you can't pull them apart. You can take a little cloth and push it up a ways, but you don't pull them apart to clean them. So there it is. It's called a low D penny whistle. And I can't play all the notes because the finger stretches are just too much for me, especially since I injured my right hand, but I'm going to play a little bit just so you can get the quality of the tone. That's it's a very beautiful tone. When I first bought it, I got a letter from the company that sends it out and said, Pat, if you just can't play it, send it back. We'll refund your money. All I had to blow was to blow in and hear that tone. That tone is magnificent. And I can't use it for solos or anything because to stretch, I mean, I just can't stretch my fingers as much as you need to for an instrument that large. For the recorders, the altos and the tenors are a little like that. The finger stretches are very big. But when you get to the bass, they add keys, start adding keys, because there's no way, I mean, the thing is 3 feet long. There's no way you could stretch your hand out that far. But there it is. It's one of my favorites, and it is definitely a penny whistle. And so I'm going to hold it like this so you can see the full length of it. It's an absolutely gorgeous instrument. So there are many, many, many kinds of instruments that we have that a lot of people never get a chance to see. And if I have them, I like to show them. You know, in history, during war times in various countries of the world, people would actually bury their instruments to preserve them during war, because as armies came by, they would destroy the instruments. So in order to save the instruments, if there was a war going on and they thought they were going to be invaded, they would actually bury the instruments, and then later on remember where they buried them and pick them up to try to preserve them. Now, I have probably, I don't know, 250 or so instruments in my collection. I've got more than I thought. I cataloged a few weeks ago, I cataloged 231, but I've added more than that. So I'm going to say conservatively about 250 instruments, and most of them are all woodwinds. And some of them are instruments that you would never see because most people don't have them. But people give me instruments, or I go to stores and there's something unusual and I buy it. And I do have a source of supply, a company in the West Coast that provides me with instruments as well that I get. I've gotten some of the unusual ones that I have from there. So at any rate, I do enjoy bringing them in, and I really feel that a show like this will teach you something more than just how to play this note or that note. You can get a full, greater scope of what music is and the various instruments that exist that you won't maybe be able to see unless you watch a show like this where they're brought in. So I'm going to close it here, and I will continue next time, and we'll do more music then. So please join me next time.